Indian
No, thank you.
is very, very proud.
Appreciate it.
What I admire about and what I learn in terms of saying that if in your leadership style, what you've demonstrated that if you have empathy, if you rely on partnerships and build trusts and relationships, and if you think about every mistake as a learning opportunity, and if you believe that it's not products or profit, but really people and their continuous reinvention of capability, that's the strength of the organization. I think all of us in India Inc. are inspired, and thank you for all your leadership. Personally, I'm very committed, and I'm very privileged, Satya, that you have committed to India on a scale that I never anticipated that a multinational will. And we are very excited about the partnership that Jio and Microsoft will have. And I think that that will be, as we look at this decade, will be a defining partnership. So
Absolutely.
Thank you for your commitment to India.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Now, let me answer your question. I think that, as we are speaking, President Trump has arrived in Ahmedabad, and the India that he will see in 2020 is very different from the India that either President Carter saw or Clinton saw when he came in 2020, or even Obama, right? We are having millions of people on the street, each one of them having their own personal experience with their phones, and the network strong enough. And I think, I can easily say that the mobile networks in India now are better or at par with anybody else in the world. And that's
amazing.
Big change. When he reaches the stadium, right, and you talked about stadium, the infrastructure in that stadium in terms of digital is better than any other place in the world. So that is the India as we start in 2020. If you then even think about your own journey and think about 1992 when you joined Microsoft, right? India was $300 billion. Today, India is $3 trillion. And fundamentally, right, this whole progress, right, in a certain way has happened on the back of technology. In the early days, it was Rajesh's TCS, Infosys, and all of them who drove technology in India. And that really kick-started with with all the economic reforms, kick-started this whole growth paradigm. It was supercharged in 2014 when Prime Minister gave us the vision of Digital India. And if you then see what followed, and I was again privileged to play a very small role in it in terms of with the launch of Jio. And just to share with you and the audience, pre-Jio, right, of time she spends, right? So in your language, she has the greatest tech intensity and tech adoption. So I think that's really what has happened. So consumption has also gone up, and this has really become a people's movement. And when you then talk about the financial sector, right, we just introduced UPI, and with digitization in December, right, we had 100% growth, and total UPI transactions in this country digitally were 2 lakh crores. So what has happened is that because we've got infrastructure, right, we are accelerating And we are just at the beginning of this whole journey.
And that's one of the things, Mukesh, I was going to ask you, because in some sense, all of what you've done in laying out the network capability, you talked about what that has led to, this, people being empowered, consuming more, using more, and you have the best rates and connectivity today. Now, you also have an ambition.
And they are critical to all the economic activity that we see. And they have done this, again, with zero technical enablement and adoption. So the opportunity there is to really go from no technology, no digitization, and really pole vault to adopt. And our opportunity between Jio and Microsoft is to really give them fully consumer piece that we have seen in the last few years.
That's tremendous. Tremendous. Maybe we can close out. You sort of referenced how your father, 5 decades ago, got started with a dream and a hope of what is possible and created what is today, one of the most amazing stories in business. When you now leading this organization, look out, what sort of drives you? What inspires you? What is it that you would like to see happen?
Well, I think that the opportunity that we have for India really is the opportunity to become the premier digital society in the world. I think with all the components that are coming in place, right, as we grow and march forward, right, I have no doubt in my mind that we will become among the top 3 economies in the world, right? 20 years ago, we were saying, okay, where will India be? Now I think that if you talk to anybody, there is no doubt in anybody's mind. We can argue about whether it'll happen in 5 years or 10 years, but it's going to happen. And we will be in the top 3 economies in the world. When that happens, right, our opportunity is, will we be the most technically enabled society? Will we be having all our development enabled by all the tools of technology? Can we really be a pace setter in terms of using all technology? And again, what our Prime Minister says is, can we then use technology for businesses so that businesses have ease of doing business, but we then in partnership deliver ease of living for every citizen of India and build a society that is equal, has ethics, and really gives equal opportunity to empower everybody to find their potential. And that, I think, in the coming 2 decades, right, is the opportunity that India has. What next generations of India will see is a very different India than what you and I have grown up in. And I think all of us should be working towards that. Our own partnership between Jio and Microsoft, right, will work with businesses from startups to micro enterprises to merchants and shopkeepers to really large enterprises in partnership, really to drive and enable and build this new India.
In fact, one thing that Akash will sort of really be on me if I don't mention is even gaming. I think in the next decade, you may become a gamer.
That's difficult, but I think that Akash is very excited in terms of India. Gaming doesn't really exist in India, and with everything that we're doing in xCloud and our broadband connectivity, right, I think that there is huge potential, and for some of us who don't know what gaming is, right, it's very hard to imagine that gaming will be bigger than music, movies, and TV shows all put together. But we will see.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mukesh. Thank you for your leadership and success.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Satya. That was good.
Thank you so much.